I need a host, and I need you to say yes, but how do I word it? We're gonna jump right in. Coming next. Hey pretty people, my name is Rachel. This is Wanderye, where we give you the how-to on making travel tangible. In this segment, we're going to talk about how to write a proper Couchsurfing hello to make you as eligible as possible to get that host to say yes. If you find that you like what you hear and you want to keep up to date on responsible travel tips, do consider subscribing. If while you're watching you find out there's something I've missed, something I can improve on, or something that all our watchers can grow from by you sharing your knowledge, you do that. Do that right down in the comments. There are 3 main steps we are going to cover in terms of writing your proper hello. Step 1, search carefully. If you are one of the few who are not verified and only have 10 introductions per month to actually say hello and make that first good impression, you want to make sure that you're saying hi to the right person the first time. And if you want to get rid of that 10 introduction limit, you should get verified. And if you want to know how that all works, you should go right here. There is somewhat of a myth that any bed is a good bed for couchsurfing, but this is not true. In an emergency, maybe, but couchsurfing is all about that bond from the host and surfer experience. So when you're looking for a host, start out picky. If you roll down the line and you find out that there's not as many options as you would have liked, maybe if it's a smaller town, you're definitely going to find that, but in a big space, you can start out picky and then whittle it down and say like, okay, I don't need to have my own private room. Maybe because it's couch surfing, I might actually be okay with a couch. And then start changing the filters if you're not finding any matches. Keep in mind, couch surfing is not a dating app, and so you don't want to swipe just to keep your options open. Only swipe right if you think it's right. Tip 2, read thoroughly. Most hosts will be able to tell right away if you didn't read their profile, and honestly, immediately dismiss you based on that fact alone. So come armed with knowledge. As you're reading through, look for commonalities, things that you can bond over or exchange. Even if they seem nice, you can admit that you don't think you're going to drive along. Maybe they're too uptight for you, or that they're too needy for the kind of loose schedule you need. It's okay for you to say no all the time. Just as a heads up, some will actually have conditions hidden in their profiles, and so you do want to make sure you read thoroughly, because some will say, if you've read all the way down to this far, make sure you insert the word apple in your message. Or I've read once someone said, if you're from inside the United States, I only want international people to come through. I don't know, it is their house, you're playing by their rules, just make sure you can get along with their rules. Tip 3, draft your message. Couchsurfing has an awesome thing that allows you to create a template that you can send to multiple hosts. However, you want to build that with a lot of flexibility so that's not the same cookie cutter stuff, because hosts will sniff that out in a second. Things to make sure you cover in the message include addressing them by name and spelling that name right. Introducing your own name and the name of whoever you might be traveling with if there is anybody. It's also polite to include what your relationship is with that person, if they're a friend or perhaps more. It'd be good to know if you're coming into a maybe more conservative household that doesn't want a couple to stay in the same bedroom. Things to know before you actually get there. And if you are traveling with someone who doesn't have a profile of their own that this host can go check out, it helps to reference that one of your photos has this person. And then also make sure there is a photo with that person so you're not lying to them. Why you chose them as a host. Make them feel special. A quick spit about why you're there in town, how long for, what your schedule generally looks like, and even how you're getting around town. Be as specific as you know how to be. For example, arriving at noon on Tuesday, but we have a rental car. For me as a host, that answers a lot of questions I would have had to ask. Awesome. And if you don't know your schedule, be honest about that too, and emphasize your flexibility to work with what their day looks like. Come back to what you have in common with them, what you can offer. If you are the kind that brings around keychains from your home space, say, hey, Do you collect those? I can give this to you. Or maybe they're really interested in cooking and you can say, hey, if you want, I can cook you a meal, and say thank you that way. You've traveled to the same places or played the same instrument or like the same movies or sleep also at night. Don't forget to actually ask to stay. That is very important. Also say thank you and then goodbye. And then finally, give it a read through. Read it through. Be critical. Imagine you don't know you and how awesome you are. And imagine this is a letter coming from some rando. This is asking if you can be their home tonight. And you're like, no, this person sounds absolutely nuts. Or maybe they're awesome. Read through it. To make sure you keep in mind, if you are using a template and they have like fillable spots that is like this part changes, which is entirely useful and I highly recommend, make sure you know which parts you should change every time and actually change those parts every time. If you are working with that 10 introduction limit that comes with not having a verification paid account, then when you're messaging people, I suggest only messaging 1 or 2 at a time. Wait a little bit of time, if time is on your side, to see if they respond, and then you can respond accordingly and maybe conserve some of those very important introductions. Also, when you're searching for hosts, there will be a percentage that highlights what the response rate is, and then maybe shoot for the people that are highest response rate first. If you find out later on in life that you would like to be a host, make sure you respond to people so that your own response rate goes up. And once you hit send, let that go. The last thing I would want as a host is to have somebody honey badgering me, say like, hey, you see? Hey, did you see? Hey, can I stay? Did you see? And then become ready for whatever the response is. Some people are very specific about wanting a request only to come within 2 weeks from when you plan to stay, which is a conflict for me because I prefer to plan these things months in advance. If some surfer's coming over, I'd like to know at least a month away. Feel that one out. Also, if they respond to you and unfortunately the answer is no, we cannot host you, say thank you anyway. Be polite. Perhaps you might be returning to their side of the world again in the future and you want to make sure that bridge is not burned. Or maybe you don't mind about burning bridges. Well, in that case, just be nice. Also, whether they say yes and or haven't responded yet, if your details change, make sure to update them as soon as possible and as specifically as possible because that can affect their answer. Again, if there's anything I missed, let me know. And there you have it. I'm Rachel, this is Wanderye, and we will see you next time.